Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, guys, based on the time zones you all are coming from. So, guys, before we start with the session, can you all please give me a quick confirmation if you all can see my screen and hear me loud and clear as well? You can all use the questions tab to give me a quick confirmation, everyone. Perfect. Thank you for the confirmation. Abhya, Abhishek, Anmol, Arjun, Damodar, Joy, Shravan. Perfect. Thank you so much for the confirmation, guys. So again, you all have been a part of this wonderful journey that we have started 10 days, almost 9 days back on DevOps. So again, for those who have joined for the first time, my name is Neeraj Kedia, and I've been working in this IT industry for almost 10 years now, having trained multiple companies, having provided my consultation with multiple companies on cloud computing, DevOps, and other development technologies. And in terms of training front, I have been actively working as a corporate trainer since last 5 years. We have trained the workforce almost all the major companies all across the globe for these technologies, right? All right. So now, since today is our last session here, so let me share this entire certification training for the entire training that we have been working on, right? So this is a full-fledged training on getting certified as a certified DevOps engineer, right? So let me share this link with everyone. Here you go. Now, this entire certification training, guys, covers every topic that we have initially discussed in each and every of our session that we have been covering since last 9 days, right? So here we cover on each and every module, starting from the overview for DevOps, how DevOps is structured, how we can get started on DevOps, what are different modules in DevOps, about the different tools available in DevOps, and how we can get started on learning, not just learning the concepts, but actually implementing it one by one when we start our entire training here, right? So first of all, in the overview for DevOps, here we cover why DevOps, what is DevOps, what are DevOps market trends, how exactly is the demand for DevOps in 2019, what are the skill sets required for being a DevOps engineer, how exactly DevOps is structured, its entire ecosystem, right? And then we'll be having a quick discussion on the use case in our first module for overview for DevOps here, right? Then in our second module, that we'll be discussing on version control with Git. So here our main focus would be on our discussion on what exactly is version control, what exactly we mean by Git, why we should be using Git for our organization, how we can get started by installation of Git, what are the common commands in Git, and how we can work with remote repositories, including branching, including making sure that we are actually deploying the applications on using the technologies that we have learned so far in Git, right? And then under Gits, and then we'll be focusing on Git, Jenkins, and Mavens, where we'll focus on the entire branching and merging concepts in Git. Then we'll discuss on Git workflows, Git cheat sheet, what exactly is CI, as in continuous integration, why CI is required. Then we'll be discussing on the introduction to Jenkins, introduction to Mavens, and then as a part of the hands-on available in this entire training, we'll be focusing on how we can get started with branching, merging, stashing, rebasing, reverting, and resetting using the Git system. And then we'll focus on how we can work with build and automation of testing using Jenkins and Mavens here, right? And then we'll be focusing on the continuous integration with Jenkins. Then we'll be discussing on the entire setup for Jenkins, how Jenkins is structured, how we can add a slave node to Jenkins, how we can work with building a delivery pipeline, how we can work with pipeline as a code, what exactly it is and why it is required, why companies are adopting to this technology, to this setup. And then we'll be focusing on how we can implement the Jenkins in the Edureka project, because for getting certification, for getting certified, here we have to work on the projects, then only we'll be getting the certification from us, right? And then how we can work with the pipeline building here, and how we can create the pipeline script, and again how we can deploy this in application over the Tomcat server, right? That will be our hands-on. And then in using the continuous testing using Selenium, we'll be focusing on what exactly Selenium is, why Selenium is the most popular tool, why we use it, what are the web drivers, how we can create test cases in Selenium, what and why XPath. We'll be focusing on how we can handle different controls using the web page, what are different frameworks in Selenium, what are the integration system available with, how we can integrate Selenium basically with Jenkins, right? And then how we can implement the Selenium tool with Edureka project as a part of entire certification training, right? And then as a part now, then in the continuous deployment, we'll be focusing on the entire concepts of Docker, how we can, what exactly are images and containers, how we can run a short command as hello world in Docker, how we can get started on discussion on our container cycles, what exactly container lifecycle is, how we can start with sharing and copying, what exactly is base image, Docker file, and how we can work with containers here, right? And then we'll be discussing on what exactly is an image and how we can get started by publishing the image on Docker Hub. Same like we have GitHub, here we have Docker Hub, where we can get started on deploying, on pushing and pulling the images on the Docker Hub. It can be, once we push the image, then it can be pulled by different members to deploy the same container, to use the same container in order for the deployment, all right? And then in containerization using Docker, we'll be focusing on the entire Docker ecosystem, how we can work with Docker Swarm as a orchestration tool, and how we can manage containers, how we can run containers, what are different network types available, what exactly is Docker networking and container networking, and again how we can use this in order to incorporate with Docker, right? And then as a part of hands-on, we'll be focusing on how we can start containers on cluster with Docker Swarm, how we can deploy a multi-tier application with over cluster, and how we can scale an application as well. All right. And then under continuous deployment here, we'll be focusing on how we can get started on Puppet being the most popular configuration management tool, how we can install Puppet, how we can configure it, what are the master and agent setup, how it is done. We'll be focusing on the modules, classification, environment, and classes defined in Puppet, and then followed by automation and reporting, right? So these all things we'll be doing, and as a part of entire project as well, that will be having a good hands-on, right? And then we'll be also focusing on how we can go ahead with configuration management using Ansible. So here we'll be discussing on the entire architecture for Ansible, how we can use it, how we can configure it, and start using it by creating multiple playbooks, right? And then we'll be focusing on Kubernetes, how we can handle multiple clusters, right? So clusters, and again, how we can, what exactly is YAML is, how we can deploy Kubernetes using YAML, what are different services available in Kubernetes, how we can install Kubernetes Dashboard, because Kubernetes is offered as a dashboard that we have seen earlier, right? And how we can update in Kubernetes, what are different, how we can get started with Kubernetes orchestration, and then how we can proceed further, right? And these are the, again, the hands-on that we'll be focusing on in setting up the Kubernetes cluster, in deploying an application through Kubernetes Dashboard. And then we'll be focusing on continuous monitoring using Nagios. So here we'll be focusing on the introduction to Nagios, how we can install Nagios, what are different plugins available there, and again, what are different common commands of Nagios that we'll be also focusing on today's session as well, right? And then at the end, we'll be focusing on how we can also get started on deploying DevOps on top of cloud, especially AWS platform, right? So that will be our entire agenda for this entire certification training that we have. And by the end of it, you'll be working on the actual course itself. And then only once you are done with the course, then you'll be getting this kind of certification under your name, which will be branded by us. Now, and as we know, Edureka is a well-known brand, not through India, but globally. Edureka is a well-known brand globally, and this certification will be having a good amount of weightage in your profile, right? And then because the main reason here that you'll be required to in order to add the certification is this will prove your expertise. This will prove that you have worked on the project as well, and then only you have been certified, right? And we have almost more than now here we can have received 4.57 as the aggregate review in terms of the 58,000 reviews that we have received so far as a part of satisfied learners. So that's a huge amount of learners that we have already trained for, right? All right, so that's, and again, we do have a small code as well, guys. So here we have a code as webinar 25. Now, since you all have been a part of with us for our wonderful journey that we have covered in last 9 sessions, then as a small token of appreciation, we are giving you a free code. We are giving you a free code, a free webinar code as well, right? Using a small discount code. So let me share that discount code as well. So you can all go in now. Once you plan to start the training here, guys, since you all have been a part of this entire journey, you can use this code here as webinar 25, webinar 25, all caps. So here we can use webinar 25 in order to get a discount of flat 25% on the courses that we have on this particular course as DevOps certification, right? Let me share this with everyone as well. So the team has already shared on the chat window, guys, as you all have the access to. Right, so you can get a good discount of we can get a good discount on the courses here when we are starting this out, right? So this is again, this is limited again on the website. We don't have any discount up and running here, but since you all have been a part of this entire session, you all will be getting a good amount of discounts once you start enrolling on the once you actually enroll on the course itself, right? So as you can see, there's no course, there's no offer available on the website, but again, if you just simply use this code here as webinar 25, you will be getting a flat discount of 25% on the course fees here, right? So that will amount up to 4,500 discount on the entire course here. All right, guys, so now let's get started. Just a moment. So now we'll be focusing, now we'll be resuming on the same journey that we have already initiated on a journey to understanding DevOps in a simple and understandable way. So now let's get started. So today we'll be focusing on the last phase of the entire DevOps strategy, that is continuous monitoring, right? And in continuous monitoring, we have discussed that we have tools like we have Nagios, which is the most popular tool for continuous monitoring out here, right? So now let's get started on discussion on what exactly continuous monitoring is and how we can get started, what exactly it is important, and how we can start with the entire setup here. So here we'll be focusing on understanding the Nagios tool, especially for beginners. So here we'll be having a quick understanding what is continuous monitoring, what are different tools available as a part of continuous monitoring here, what is Nagios, and again then we'll be discussing all the Nagios case studies, and then we'll be having a quick demo for it as well, right? So first of all, let's discuss on why exactly we need continuous monitoring. What is the purpose? What is the requirement of having a continuous monitoring system deployed here, right? Now, we need a continuous monitoring system in place because we never know what kind of issues we may run into. We never know what kind of failures we may run into, right? Failures as in suppose we have multiple servers in place, some of them may be at their 100% capacity and we may never know, right? And some of us maybe not, because of being at 100% capacity, they may fail, and with them, the entire application may be brought down, right? So that's why we need a continuous monitoring tool in order to make sure that in case of any breakdowns, in case of something that will be or that has a higher possibility of being broken down, and then we can fix those components in time to recover from the entire breakdown or failures or any kind of errors as soon as possible. Because the bigger the application we are managing, even a downtime of seconds, again, it costs thousands of dollars to the companies, right? So that's why we have to make sure that we don't have any kind of breakdowns in between. And again, that's why we need to perform continuous checking, continuous monitoring for each and every phases here. Because again, if we leave this out of the continuous monitoring, then we may never know what kind of error is being generated, right? Suppose, let's say a service has been started on any of the servers, which may cause the entire server to fail after a day or two, right? Now, if we are using a continuous monitoring tool here, then we will know, okay, which of the server is again having the highest possibility, or again, which one is about to be broken down so that we can fix that component in time, right? Because again, if we try to fix it after, and again, we try to analyze it before, even after the failure, then again, it will take a longer period of time in order to be solved, right? And basically here we want to have the entire analysis done already so that in case of any kind of failures, can I have a cue from someone? Yeah, so in case of any kind of failures here, we can simply go ahead and fix that. All right. And for those who have joined by the YouTube here, guys, we also have a meetup community. We also have a meetup community here. So let me share that meetup community as well. So meetup community is basically our community for getting updates on the webinars that we are conducting on a monthly basis, on every month, right? So here we have entire meetup community, guys. So where we conduct more than 150 plus webinars on a daily basis, on a monthly basis. So they are on a daily basis. There are more than 5 to 6 webinars being conducted on different topics, including cloud computing, including DevOps, including different programming and development technologies. So that now these sessions are 90 minutes each, and then we can have a quick understanding of what these modules are, what these topics are, and then we can get started on top of it, right? So each and every module is focused on, first of all, understanding the entire concept for it, and then followed by a small hands-on on whatever we have and whatever we will be discussing on these different sessions here, right? And the best part of these sessions are they are completely free, so we don't have to pay any amount of money in order to enroll into these, right? So it's completely free of cost here, and this will be a really good path. This will be a really good path in order to get started. That means in order to learn what exactly is happening in these communities, and how we can get started on keeping ourselves updated on these technologies, right? Although we won't be having that much of, we can say, skill set, because since we are limited on time here for 90 minutes, that's why we won't be able to have the entire expertise. And that's why for getting the entire expertise on the topic, we have to join the entire certification program that we have to offer, right? But again, in order to stay updated on what is happening, this is a really good platform for anyone to join, right? So then we can be part of this entire meetup here so that we can be notified of the entire schedule as well, right? So I guess as you can see here we have the webinars on Nagios, and we have for reinforcement learning tutorial. Then we have for Python, then we have for blockchain, and then we have these other past events that we have conducted, right? All right, so now let's get started. Now, we were discussing why exactly we need continuous monitoring. So we need continuous monitoring to make sure that the failures of the CI and CD pipelines, as in continuous integration and continuous deployment pipelines, is well reported, and not just after the failure, but again, if they are about to fail or any kind of abnormalities are being observed based on the rules and logic that we have defined, that can be reported well in advance, right? And then any kind of application issues, Suppose now we need to scale up the our application. We need to scale up. We need to scale it down. We need to scale it up exactly as per requirement. Then we can do that easily using these different monitoring tools out here, right? And then what are the infrastructure issues available? Suppose we need to upgrade the hardware. We need to upgrade the software part as well, right? Again, these all things can also be reported as a part of continuous monitoring tools. And how we can get started on the static code analysis that will also be part of this entire setup here, right? And why exactly we need continuous monitoring here? Then this example that we had discussed earlier as a part of our configuration management tools here, right? So basically, when we create the entire pipeline here, now it may happen that sometimes some of the pipelines may not be delivered as it should. Sometimes some of the pipelines may not be delivered as it should, right? Suppose there is an issue here. For example, as you can see here, the commit has been completed successfully, so as the acceptance as well, right? But again, here we have an issue in the unit we can say user acceptance test here. This has failed, right? So whatever has failed here, again, that can be reported to the team in real-time scenario as a part of the continuous monitoring tools here, right? Again, these are some of the common issues with CI and CD pipelines, where we get rapid introduction to performance problems and errors, where we also get rapid introduction to new endpoints causing monitoring issues, and the lengthy root cause analysis as the number of services expands. That's the main part. That's the main part of, we can say, one of the main issues faced by the continuous integration and delivery pipelines, right? And now, why exactly, now as a continuation of why exactly we need a continuous monitoring tool in place? First of all, here, if we want to take corrective actions on whatever has been done here, right? So again, running the APM solutions earlier in the life cycle here, again, for example, here we had a production-like environment that on which we are testing, right? And again, when we get the feedback of how the application will perform in production server, then we can now suppose if it is good, again, we can simply finally launch it being a developer, or if some changes needs to be incorporated in it, then we can do that easily, because again, that's the part of the monitoring, right? So then we can also fetch the reports here. That means what has functioned well, what has not, and again, what has been the reason of it, and how we can improvise it further. That's a part of the entire R&D, and again, that's why we need continuous monitoring system out here, right? And because again, the server health cannot be compromised at any cost. Now imagine Amazon being down for let's suppose even for 30 seconds, or even for 1 minute, right? And again, if Amazon is down for 1 minute, then that means a huge loss. That means the loss of millions of dollars to the company, right? Which the company cannot afford in any case. And that's exactly what we can try to avoid using the continuous monitoring tools here. So suppose even if Amazon is down for, let's suppose, just a couple of seconds, let's suppose Amazon is down for suppose 10 seconds, 5 seconds, right? Still those 5 seconds again are valuable to Amazon, because again, if they are down, they may be they will be losing out on the customers, right? And that's why they need to keep themselves up and running at every given point of time here, right? And that's why what we do is we also use continuous monitoring tool in order to measure these, right? Now, what is continuous monitoring? Now, as a part of entire DevOps strategy that we have seen so far, so continuous monitoring is simply a simple approach, we can say a simple approach or process in which we make sure that the entire visibility of the infrastructure, applications, and business processes, these all are maintained, and these also are monitored as well, right? Suppose if we have multiple applications being deployed here, right? Suppose if we are talking about this in real case scenario, suppose here we have a complete stack of all the applications that we have deployed, right? Now application also, again, they all need to be monitored here, right? Here we also have a server being deployed. So again, we also need to keep a check on the server as well. So that means there's no issue with the server. And again, suppose here we have working with multiple databases or multiple logics, then this thing also has to be defined here, right? As a part of continuous monitoring here, because again, if we lose our focus, if we do not focus on any of these pointers here, then that will be a disaster, especially for big scale application, because big scale applications, they will be failing, and that too at a huge level, at a big level, if we don't have this kind of continuous monitoring in place, because this has to be done, and that too not just one time, but again that too regularly, right? Because entire team has worked hard because again our entire team have worked so far in developing the application, in marketing it, right? And obviously no one will want the entire application, the entire efforts to be going in vain, even when we see a downtime just because we didn't implement the continuous monitoring tool out there, right? That's why we need this as a part of continuous deployment and continuous monitoring as well. All right, so now let's erase this up. Right. Next, now these are the continuous monitoring phases here, right? First of all, here we have to define now. First of all, here we have to define it, then we have to establish it, then we have to implement, analyze, respond, review, and update. So these are different phases of continuous monitoring out here. These are different phases of continuous monitoring out here, right? Now, first of all, if we focus here on the define phase. Now, first of all, here we have to define the entire ecosystem of the application as well. That means what exactly we are looking for, how we are looking for it as well, right? And again, how we can get started on top of it, right? And then we have to focus on establishing as well. That means whatever we have defined here, whether it can be monitored or not. Again, and again, if they suppose there may be some kind of servers which are quite inaccessible, right? Again, they may not be a part of the entire monitoring as well. So here we have to make sure that the feasibility part is also matched. And again, then we go ahead with the entire implementation there, right? And then we have the implementation. Now, once it has been verified, once it has been established, that can be monitored, then we go ahead with the implementation part. All right. And then we have the analyze. Obviously, now we also need to have a complete analysis phase also put in place here, right? So again, whatever the feedback is and how we can get started, that has to be placed here, right? And then we have response. Again, here we have to make sure we are responding. Now, again, obviously, suppose something needs to be passed on to the development team, right? The feedback system, the feedback has to be passed on to the developers. Again, that way they have to respond again, and then based on the reviews and update received, again, we can go ahead and update it based on any configurations, based on any kind of changes that has been made here. All right. And that's why, okay, so for example, suppose if it, as a part of the security information system, as in SIEM, right? So here we can have security tools, here we can have endpoints being delivered, right? And permission for, again, that's why here we have also component for governance risk, right? Risk database, actionable intelligence, these are part of the security information system, right? And even management system that has to be maintained, right? And endpoints can be data warehouse for storing the data, because again, any application may be connected to a simple data store, like we can say warehouse, where we can store multiple pieces of data exactly as per the requirement. We can do that. All right. Now let's understand what are the different tools available as a part of continuous monitoring here, right? So in continuous monitoring tools, if we are deploying this over the AWS platform, then here we have Amazon CloudWatch. Then in the open source tool world, then here we have Splunk, we have Nagios, we have Elastic, Logstash, and again, these are all combined together with Kibana, right? So these are different tools that are most popular as a part of continuous monitoring tools. If you're deploying this over the cloud services, then we have Amazon CloudWatch. And if you're deploying this on using the open source tools, then we have Kibana, Splunk, Nagios as the most popular tool out here, right? And here we'll be focusing on Nagios, because the entire session here, because Nagios is also one of the most popular tools out here for continuous monitoring, and that is exactly what we'll be focusing on. All right. Now, before we start with the Nagios, are we all clear on the concept of continuous monitoring and why we need it? Please give me a quick confirmation, guys. Are we all clear on the concept of continuous monitoring and why exactly we need it? Please give me a quick confirmation, everyone. Perfect. Thank you for confirming, Paul, Damodar, Dhanand, Edureka Guest, Osman, Sai, Sonendra. Perfect. Thank you so much for the confirmation, everyone. All right, so now let's get started on understanding Nagios. So Nagios is basically an entire system of one of the most popular continuous monitoring tool, which is basically used to monitor the entire IT infrastructure to ensure systems, appliances, applications, services, business processes, all are following the functions properly. That's the main concept. That's the main concept of Nagios here, right? So first of all, here we focus on Nagios server. Again, Damodar, so please explain various monitoring tools here. That's exactly what we are doing here, Damodar. So first of all, here we are starting with Nagios and understanding what exactly Nagios is, and then we'll be having a quick overview for the others towards the end as well, so that we can make a quick comparison as well, as in the pros and cons of different tools out here. So is it clear, Damodar? Please give me a quick information. Perfect. Thank you for confirming. So first of all, here we have Nagios server. So first of all, here we have Nagios server. Then Nagios periodically runs plugins resetting all the servers, right? And then again, here we have a web interface, and then it is connected to all the hosts and servers running the application. And then it is connected to a web interface. It has its own web interface where we can visualize what is happening with the entire system out here. And then we can also choose to be notified by SMS and email, and how we want to be notified in case something changes or some other things change as a part of the getting notification. All right. And then in terms of Nagios features, first of all, it is scalable, it is manageable and secured as well. It is scalable, manageable and secure. Again, it has a good log and database system available. It has a good log and database system in place, right? It automatically sends alerts depending upon this entire setup here. It detects the network errors and server crashes. Again, that can also be reported as a part of the dashboard that we have on top of Nagios, right? And then here it is much easier to write plugins based on the requirement. We can customize that. We can monitor the business process and IT infrastructure with a single pass. That's how easy it is, right? And then all the issues can be fixed automatically based on the pre-configured settings that or pre-configured tasks that we define here. And then the support, and again the support for implementing, and we can see implementing redundant monitoring hosts can be ruled out as a part of the entire features available in Nagios, right? And then Nagios is built now, as we can see here, Nagios is actually built on the server agents architecture. And usually on a network, Nagios server is running on a host, and plugins interact with local and all the remote hosts that needs to be monitored, right? So basically it works with, now just like we have the Puppet system, right? So first of all, we have to set the Puppet server, and then Puppet server will act like a master, and all the other nodes will be working like a slave out there, right? Where we have to, again, we have to connect all the remote hosts to the master, we can say, to the main server, so that all the hosts, all the all the entire remote hosts, or we can say slaves, can be monitored and reported, right? And that's why we use plugins here, and that's why these plugins will be sending the information to the scheduler, which will display that to a GUI as in a dashboard, as in the same HTML dashboard that we get when you're working with Nagios. All right, and that's why here we have the entire Nagios GUI here again, and then we have the entire server which has multiple plugins put in place here. And then once the plugin works, again they can send the data they have received to scheduler, and scheduler then again simply passes on to the dashboard as a part of the result. Or if we have set up the entire notification, then we can simply use it as to send the notification as well. All right. And as a small hands-on here we can see the entire, like, monitoring the entire remote Linux host. So here we can in the monitoring host here we can have Nagios and the check type, right, and check NRPE. And then we have it uses a simple SSL connection between the servers, between the remote servers here, right? So that we can now each and every remote server here we can simply check the check by, suppose if you want to check the test, load, HTTP request, or the FTP request as well, right? So whatever the output is, again, can be returned back as a part of the entire interactive GUI dashboard. We can do that. Now, okay, first of all, are we all clear on the complete Nagios architecture? Please give me a quick information, guys. Are we all clear on the complete Nagios architecture? Please give me a quick confirmation, everyone. So if we are clear on this part, then we can move ahead to the Nagios case study, and then we'll be having a short hands-on on how we can get started on installation of Nagios on a system. Perfect. Thank you for the confirmation. So Nagios has the entire architecture here. That means it has just like we install Puppet, right? So there's no hardware involved here. So we simply install Nagios so that it can simply report and track the changes on different servers. And then those changes, those entire report can be presented as a part of the dashboard that we will be setting it up. So is it clear, Damodram? Please give me a quick information. Yes, Damodram, it's a complete software-based tool here. Absolutely. That we use to monitor the entire hardware as in all the servers that we have deployed here. Is it clear now? Perfect. Thank you for confirming. All right, so now let's discuss a short case study on Nagios as well. Now, there's a company out here called as Bitnetics. Now, basically, it provides the outsourced IT management and consulting to non-profits and small to medium businesses here, right? Now, Bitnetics was tasked with monitoring an online store for an e-commerce retailer with a $1 billion annual revenue, right? Now, beyond keeping the lights on for the stores, Bitnetics needed to ensure the cart and checkout functionality was up and running because that's how they are earning the money, and check for the website defamation and notify if the necessary staff, if there is anything that went away, right? For example, suppose now when we talk about the website defamation, suppose something is talked about, and that's why here we have a simple concept of social listening as well, right? Suppose as a part of monitoring process, a brand needs to keep up with its online reputation, and if something is being talked about that brand anywhere, then we have tools through that we can through which we can monitor if any activity, if our brand name has been mentioned anywhere on the internet, right? And then if it is being mentioned and if it has been mentioned in the good context or bad context, and then we can take up the proper actions. Again, if it has been good context, then we can simply make sure that if there is again that stays, and if it is in the bad context, we can simply work on resolving it as soon as possible. All right. And that's why with now based on the current based on the requirement that we had that they have set up, right? So that they simply hit a roadblock upon realizing that the client's data center was located in Shockers, right? In Shockers, again, that is in New Jersey, almost more than 500 miles away from the staff in Rochester in New York, right? And that again, these two areas required unique but comprehensive monitoring for the production, quality assurance, staging, development, and each and every process here for the entire development. So for in making sure that these all are structured and these all are defined properly, right? And again, the biggest challenge faced by Bitnetics was again they realized the client's data center was located in different cities, right? And again, most of the notifications sent to the client was ignored because there were so many false positives, right? Because of the unstructured format here, right? And the main solution which they were offered was, first of all, they added an SSH firewall rule for network operations for again center, personal, and equipment. Then they have simply analyzed the web pages to check for defamation occurrences. Then converting notifications to Nagios alerts and escalations with specific time periods was done. Configuration of the event handlers was done in order to make sure the fix has, again, before even to restart the services before notification, are fixed for 90% of all the issues. That was done using this part. And using Nagios Core here, along with multiple other tools, again on multiple servers at the facility, each Nagios worker was deployed at the application level with direct access to host, so that they don't run into any kind of issues with accessing the file system or any kind of congestion in the root here, right? And at last, they have using the entire architecture for production, quality assurance, staging, and development environments here, one by one, right? And what was the result out of it? They saw a dramatic reduction in the notifications. Again, that's why they were receiving almost 90% of the notifications as false notification, right? And that's how they increase the uptime from around 85% to 98% annually, right? Leading to happy and again well-rested system administrator and the customers as well. And then they also reduce the false positives, right? And then there we had also estimated the need to log in multiple boxes and changed configuration files here, right? Because again, Nagios configuration, Nagios, let's just say we have configuration management tools here. We also can perform some kind of configuration using Nagios as well, right? And this is the actual dashboard of which we get, or which actually looks like when we have installed and configured Nagios, right? So here we can see the entire dashboard in terms of the entire usage here. Suppose what is the CPU load, again, based on ping on SSH, again, what is the entire statement here, again, how many attempts has been made, how many duration they have been up and running, and when was the last check made, and what is the current status for each and every system out here, right? So okay is we don't have to worry about anything. And then if we are focusing on the red, then we do have to worry about multiple things here. That we worry as in these are critical and that needs to be addressed right away. Suppose, let's say here we see the CPU usage is again critical. That means there's almost 90 to 100%. That means it will have a sure breakdown, if not fixed now, right? And that's why we need to keep a check on these kind of resource usage as well. All right. Now let's do one thing. Let's first of all, we move on to the hands-on here and how to start installing it. Are we all clear on the concept of Nagios, guys? Please give me a quick information. Not the implementation part, but all the concept part is clear. Please give me a quick information, guys. Perfect. Thank you for the information, Paul. Damodram. Saurav. Edureka guest, webinar registrants, Rahul, Sai, everyone. Badri. Perfect. Thank you so much for the confirmation, guys. All right, so now let's get started. All right, so now let's get started on how we can start with installation of Nagios into our system here, right? So now let's do one thing. Let's get started by installation of all the services into our instance. So let's do one thing. Let's connect to our instance again here. Let's open up a new putty session. Just a moment. Here we have to open up a new putty where we have to, again, let's reconnect to our same instance that we have been deploying using the AWS terminal here. Now for doing that, let's log into our console again, console.aws.amazon.com. Let's enter the MFA code. Just a moment, guys. Okay, just a moment, guys. Let us fetch our phone so that we can enter the MFA code. Just a moment. Thank you for the waiting, guys. So now we have fetched our code here. So because again, for the MFA, we need to have our phones in order to fetch the code here. So let's enter the code. Just a moment. Now, once we have entered this, now we have already have the access here. So now let's expand this. Let's change the font size. So the main goal is we'll be having a quick understanding of how we can get started on the installation of Nagios here. So let's change ourselves to root user. Let's clear this out. All right, so now let's get started on how we can set it up. Now, first of all, we do have to install our. First of all, our main focus here is we'll be performing the complete installation of LAMP as in Apache, PHP and MySQL, right? So now let's go ahead and do that. And again, for doing this, what we can do, we can simply use a small command, a simple collective command here, right? We can simply write a simple collective command here using apt get install. And then we can simply define the build essential Apache 2, PHP, Apache 2 mode, PHP 7. Okay, so currently on this machine here, we don't have the package available for mod 2, but again, Apache 2 is already installed here. So we can go ahead and use Apache for this particular purpose. No problem in that. All right, so now let's clear this out. Now let's do one thing. Let's get started by adding a new user here. Now let's start by adding a new user here. So here for adding a new user here, we can simply use the command as user add. And now let's name the user as Nagios itself. So here, first of all, we'll be adding a small user here called as Nagios. And then we have to define the group as well. So again, we can use the group as well in order to create a group here. Again, we can use group add. So same like we use user add for adding users. Here we use group add in order to create and add the group here. So here we can add group add, and again, suppose let's say we name this as Nagios CMD. We can name the group anything exactly as per our requirement. We can name it anything here. Right? Now let's do one thing. Let's add the user to this group here as well. Once we have created this, let's add this user to the group as well. So now what we have done is we have simply added the user to the group as well, and to our group as Nagios CMD. Now, once we have added the user here, again, now we need to download and install the Nagios as well. Now we need to simply download and install Nagios into our system, right? So first of all, let's do one thing. Let's change our user group here. let's change the directory to our root directory. We don't want to install this under the Ubuntu system, so let's change this to our root directory. And again, for changing that, we can simply mention as cd, and then we can get started on changing our directory here. Now, once we have switched to our root directory here, we can simply go back and then we can start installation of, first of all, we have to download the package using the same command as wget that we had seen yesterday as well. Right, so first of all, here we have to download the package here. So now here we can use the same command as wget, and then we can specify the URL for it. Right, for example, now here, let me share this with everyone so that we can all have a complete clarity on how to do this. Here you go. So I've shared the link with you all guys. So here we can use this entire package in order to start. And now once the connection has been established, this will start installing the entire package one by one, which may take up to a minute depending upon the network. And once it has been downloaded here, we can again go ahead and simply tar it, right? So we can simply tar it, the package, the same package that we have currently installed here. Right, and once we have tarred it again, now we can simply we can switch to the directory that we have currently tarred here, right? So here we can switch the directory here to Nagios that we have currently created as in cd Nagios, and then we can specify the version of the same file that we have downloaded for the link which I have shared with everyone. All right. And now before we can start with installation of the Nagios, first of all, we also need to configure the user with that, right? With the group that we have created, right? So for doing that, what we can do is we can simply use the command here as configure, right? So here we can simply use the command as configure here. So now let's do that. Let's see how we can do that. So first of all, here we have to type a command here as configure. And then we have to specify, okay, we have mistyped. So here we have to simply specify what exactly we need to configure here, right? So basically we need to configure first of all, we need to configure with Nagios group, and then we can define the user here, right? So first of all, we need to configure with Nagios group. So here it is with Nagios group because the user was Nagios, right? And then we will define the group name, that is Nagios CMD that we have created, right? So first of all, we have to use configure, and then we have to specify what exactly we need to configure. So with Nagios group that we already have, that is Nagios CMD here, right? And here we can define the group here as with command group, because again we had to define the command group that we created, that was Nagios CMD, but that was Nagios CMD here, right? So here we can write command group, and that is Nagios CMD. So here we have the username as Nagios group. This has to be attached here as Nagios, with the command group as Nagios CMD, right? So basically here we have to add it. And now for installing it, now once we are done with this part here, we can simply use the command as make. And then we can use in that setup here for command mode. So here we can use the command as make install, and then we can specify command mode. For entering the command mode here, okay, have a query from someone? Okay, Paul, so what is the difference between with Nagios group and with command group? So basically when we are defining the command group here that we have created, that we did create in the earlier part, right? Remember, initially we did add the entire group here, right, as a command group. So Nagios CMD is a command group that we have added here. So that's why we did create Nagios CMD as a part of the command groups. Is it clear now, Paul? Please give me a quick information. Please give me a quick information. Perfect. Thank you for confirming. So are we all clear on the entire setup till now, guys? Please give me a quick information, everyone. So are we all clear on the complete setup till now? Perfect. Thank you for confirming, Paul. Damodram. Yes, Padri. So we need to practice this literally on our own, right? Then only we can have a complete clarity on the same, correct? And as we discussed here, we can try practicing the same thing on a local VM as well. If you want, we can set up a local VM We can use the Ubuntu image for doing that, and then we can get started on top of it. So for installation of the local VM here, we can use Oracle VM. We can use Oracle VM here, or we can get started by using our entire Ubuntu image that we have installed and set up using our AWS account here. We can do both. And before we wrap up our entire journey here, guys, so how has been the feedback from everyone? So for those who have been a part of the journey with us from the beginning itself, so how has been the feedback? I hope you really enjoyed the entire 10-class journey that we started 9 days back. Right. So for those who have been a part with our entire journey, part of our entire journey from the beginning, thank you so much to everyone, guys. You all have been wonderful. And again, I hope to see you all joining the entire session as a part of the entire certification training, so that we can continue our journey that we have started on DevOps, right? So till now, we had seen the entire overview for DevOps, what DevOps is, and what are the topics covered in DevOps. And then in order to dive deeper and to be called as a certified DevOps engineer, then we have to join the entire journey as a part of our entire certification training, so that we can learn each and every topic in deep. Plus, we'll be working on the hands-on on the project involved in DevOps, so that we can get started on a career path on becoming an excellent DevOps engineer out there. Okay, Badri, so I did not attend the last few sessions. Is it available on YouTube in the previous sessions? Yes, Badri, you can go ahead and find those. That will be available in the channel that you can browse through. All right, so thank you so much for joining, guys. And again, do not forget to use here, to use the entire code that our team has shared. So you can all use the entire code here as webinar 25, because since you all have been a part of this entire journey here, so you all can go ahead and use the code as webinar 25 in order to join the entire course here, right? So you can use this entire code here to get a flat 25% of the code of flat offer of flat discount on the courses here that we have for DevOps, right? So thank you so much for joining again, guys. You all have been wonderful, and thank you so much for your love and support for the entire journey that we have covered in 10 sessions on top of DevOps, right? And I really hope this entire journey has been really wonderful, and it has all been informative for you as well, right? And again, as a small token of appreciation, please do rate us excellent in the feedback form. That will be opened up in the browser once we end the webinar here, right? So please do rate us excellent, and let's hope to see you all soon in the entire session. And join the entire session here so that we can continue our journey on DevOps that we have started. Again, thank you so much for joining, guys, and have a great day ahead. Take care. Bye-bye.